This is the Decarbonization Disruptors Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Cohen. This is episode 8 of our podcast, and I am very pleased to welcome David Liu, co-founder and CEO of Clarity Movement. Founded in 2014, Clarity Movement's mission is to transform how governments, communities, and businesses understand and respond to air pollution with IoT-based quality monitoring technology, which is now deployed in over 70 countries worldwide. David, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matthew.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I was excited to have you on because I think, obviously in coming out of the COVID era, air quality movement is of course taking a center stage in the last few years. And I want to talk about what you're doing on that front. I want to talk about Clarity Movement. But first I wanted to ask kind of about your background and how you kind of came to where you are, because a lot of the people I speak with, usually they do kind of a general education and they kind of get into this industry, but it feels like your education background seems to be sort of tailor-made for what you do, having experience, having education in atmospheric sciences from Berkeley. So I wanted to understand kind of how you decided to kind of take that route in your education, and then obviously how that led to your current venture at Clarity.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's all traced back to kind of my childhood. I actually grew up in China, in Shanghai, and I would say back then, air pollution was much bigger issues in China. We definitely see some improvements throughout the years, but when I grew up there, it was a big issue, and and at the same time, it's an issue that not really recognized by the government at the time. So I would remember I would wake up in the morning and kind of looking outside, and I see this thick, dense fog just lingering around in the city, and it will be lasting for like the whole day. I will remember it's so bad you could staring right at the sun and without like actually eyes hurting. Um, and it didn't occur me until later that it was actually not fog. It was air pollution. And the fact that we like kind of growing up in that environment really gave me this passion of want to do something about it. And I think that's a huge reason for me that motivated me to come to US, went to one of the best kind of environmental study in the world, which is in Berkeley. And I chose to focus specifically on atmospheric science because I do want to understand the physical science behind the air pollution, the climate change we're facing. That's kind of the background.
Well, no, it's a really inspiring story. So it helped me understand, did Clarity Movement start, kind of as an undergrad, kind of through an incubation period? Or how does it kind of get going?
Yeah, we were pretty lucky to be selected as one of the very few kind of undergrad team to an incubation program called Foundry at Citrus in UC Berkeley. I think by then I think we may be one of the first undergrad team they ever accepted into the program. And I was a second year in college, and just with a lot of passion and pretty much don't know what I'm doing, but just swing my bets and got into that program, and it really kickstart the Clarity company. Yep.
So I'd be really interested to hear, especially from in your experience, kind of how you navigated building a startup right out of college, right? I mean, we see that often, but I'm sure it's a unique experience. So talk about some of the early days of Clarity Movement, even post Berkeley. What were your headwinds? What were the biggest challenges? How were you able to overcome them and build something, especially at such a young age, to obviously, having been the CEO now for, a decade plus?
I would say probably the biggest challenge for us, at least for me, was, I hope I would have more experience and and know what I'm doing. But I think a lot of lesson learned throughout the years. But the one things that really get us through is this passion to the mission that we're trying to solve, which is really trying to empower the world to reduce air pollution, as well as kind of just perseverance, right? And just never give up, keep trying, and with some luck, yeah, 10 years later, we're still around.
Very cool. I want to talk about Clarity's kind of offering, especially I want to get into, kind of this unique sensing as a service solution. And I want to understand how, that solution is unique and how it can really transform, how you use data, how you inform your customers about the air around them and how that's helping to really make them have better decisions.
Yeah. So Clarity Sensing as a Service is trying to addressing an issue of limited actionable air quality data being monitored currently. So when we start a company, majority of the air quality data are provided by these things called reference air quality monitoring station. They are size of roughly a shipping container and cost anywhere between 100,000 to a quarter million to build. And as you can imagine, with the size and the capital investment, it takes like sometimes years to get the permission and everything to build. So because of that, a city has very few of this kind of air monitoring points to really give them the data about the air pollution. Like just give you a perspective why kind of Berkeley is in Bay Area. It's an area that was, I think, around like 10 million people, something like that. But with that populations, we are only seeing like 4 to 5 reference monitoring station to covering the whole area. That's nowhere close to enough to especially to address the modern air pollution problem we're facing. I think this infrastructure was really crafted while, 30, 40 years back, when the majority of the air pollution problem is what we call macro problem. So, like the main driver for that is really around like emission standards for the cars and kind of emission for the industrial sectors and so on. But nowadays, air pollution issue, especially in the more developed countries such as the US and Europe, it's really a micro problem. What I meant is, although you do see kind of an overall trend of air pollution is improving, but it's not equal to everyone. There are pocket in the cities, area in the cities, community in the cities that's more affected by air pollution than others. And for them, the air pollution is not getting better and sometimes even getting worse. So, and that's the problem we're trying to address with the sensing service. With the availability of much more affordable technologies such as air sensors, now it's possible to have much more granular monitoring data of air quality in a much higher resolution. But in order to get there, there's some fiddling to do, right? Air quality sensor is cheap, but how you can making sure the data is accurate, reliable, and actionable. And that's where the sensing service sort of come in which we essentially package our own design hardware, our software, and most importantly, a very strong air quality experts team. And we provide this whole monitoring service to our customers so that they can get the best out of this air quality sensor technology. And in the meantime, have the most important part is getting the actionable data for them to make an improvement on the air quality in their regions. So that's where, what our sensing service is about. Yeah.
Great. I'd be curious now that you have that kind of a unique model. Have you uncovered um, areas of or causes of air pollution that wouldn't otherwise be known by the general public? Obviously, we know manufacturing, we know transportation emissions. What have you uncovered from at that micro level from an air pollution standpoint as the causes that maybe we wouldn't have realized otherwise?
Yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of projects that we have uncovered throughout this throughout the years. Um, but I would say some of the more notable ones are probably air monitoring network that we deployed to tracking the wildfires, in which we could see a huge difference in a city from it's completely healthy to it's actually a very unhealthy level. We're talking about like 4 or 5 times higher the air pollution, and it all depends on like how the plume of the smoke is going and how that is being communicated to the public. So imagine, and this is actually a network with our one of our customers, Los Angeles Unified School District, in which actually 200 of our sensors are deployed all across the district. And before having this solution, I think they had to rely on kind of the reference monitors. And then for that, sometimes the nearest monitor could be like tens or like 50, 60 miles away. So the data they get is not really very actionable and really relatable to exactly what they're experiencing. And so how you can make actionable decisions based on that data, right? So that's one of the examples I see, like a sensor network like that really played a lot of strengths. And then another great example is probably our network in London, in which it was deployed to really trying to raise more public awareness about air pollution around PM2.5 and NO2, and really trying to showcase potential impact, like kind of a benefits of this ultra low emission zone policy that the mayors put in place, trying to reduce the air pollution. And then while the overall result is, we did see an improvement of the air quality in general, kind of like throughout the cities, but at the same time, we do see, the unintended consequences of when you're introducing a law saying that, oh, heavy duty vehicle cannot enter the city, but sometimes then they have to go around. And then that actually may shift the burden of air pollution from like the people living in the central regions to more like rural regions, in which they are disproportionately be more burdens of the air pollutions. So yeah, like I would say that's sometimes like that's why we say you cannot really manage if you cannot measure. So that's kind of like our funding thesis of the company. Yeah.
Right. And it's really interesting because basically what you're saying is being able to do it at a micro level, you can understand what a weather effect, for example, is it's affecting you without really understanding if it's even near you
Yeah.
or a policy change, but if is it working or not at a local level, right? Which
Absolutely.
is I really interesting kind of way of thinking about it. And that's kind of go along with my next question, which is with the acceleration of climate change and even coming out of the COVID era, obviously air monitoring and air quality is becoming, more prevalent. How much do you think, air monitoring and air pollution is being, it has the attention of kind of the clean tech industry with all the other areas of focus that we have, and what can be done to give it more of a focus, because obviously we all need to breathe, right? So what can we do to really make it as the forefront as important technology that everybody needs to implement?
Yeah. First of all, although I do recognize there's more emphasis around the air quality, since a lot of COVID, and I think it's primarily driven by a lot of the wildfire events. Um, I would actually say overall, still there's not enough attention on air pollution issues. And the potential kind of a co-benefits that like air monitoring can really bring to our decarbonization efforts. So just give you a perspective. I think a study done in 2018 kind of shows the air pollution cost for the global economy is around $3 trillion annually, which is corresponding to roughly around 3.3% of the world's GDP. And that's a massive numbers, right? And that's a number that is relatable and actually imminent. However, I think what we didn't realize, I think a lot of times we're not realizing is a lot of the decarbonization efforts we're doing, or the greenhouse emission and air pollution emission, a lot of time are two sides of the same coin, right? They are really coming from the same sources. So any actions that we take to, like a lot of the action we're taking to mitigate the climate change actually also have a co-benefits of reduction of air pollution. And that benefit is not well quantified and well studied in kind of our ROI calculations. What we usually do is saying, how many tons of carbon emission we are reducing, but often we miss is, how about the more immediate health benefits that we can bring to the public, and how we can translate that into dollars amounts. And I think, that, and the reason it's hard to do that is because there's not enough monitoring data to really be able to showcase that benefit just yet. Although we're really working hard to change that. I think that's an opportunity where I see the air monitoring can really play a more important role in the kind of our overall efforts of decarbonization. Yeah.
I'd be curious to get your thoughts then on, I mean, look, every person I talk to, and I've been in the industry long enough to know that there's not one solve, right, to any problem. There's a lot of things we can do. What technologies do you see today, or even on the horizon, that can be at least a somewhat of a solve to air pollution? Is it capture? Is it major policy initiatives at the government level for mandating a certain level of emission reduction? I mean, what have you seen even that can be at least a quick solve in the immediate to really really horrible air conditions that we see out there?
Like I would say the most air pollution, and unlike a lot of things we're facing, can, in my opinion, only fundamentally address at the policy level. I think there's unfortunately not much personal action you can take that can fundamentally change the air you're breathing. I mean, of course, you can wear a mask when you're outside or buy air purifier in the home, but that doesn't change the air quality in general in the area, right? But you can argue that the more air purifier we put, the worse the air pollution is, because more energy demand is. So I do think that it's really down to kind of the policy level, and I think a lot of countries are doing the right things, like U.S. EPA just have announced a tightened standard for PM 2.5 concentration in the country, and that will force a lot of the region to tighten their standard enforcement monitoring so that we can breathe better air. Similarly, Europe just passed a new kind of a air Clean Air Act, their equivalents, and it's really focusing, tightening a lot of standards and really bringing more nuanced kind of air pollutants such as black carbon and ultrafine particle into the picture as well, and then forcing the EU member to really kind of meet that standard. So I do think that's and then we know that works because we can definitely see the effect of Clean Air Act on the air quality in the U.S. and we can actually also see the economic benefits of the Clean Air Act. Actually, a study being done there shows there's a 30-to-1 kind of ROI benefits for the investment we take to cleaning the air to the economic benefits we gain from the clean air. So I do think it's kind of overall a no-brainer. Obviously, you are always facing the pushback from the industrial group because they are always focused on the short-term profit. They don't want to make the investment to clean up their stuff. But long-term wise, I do think that works, and I think that's the only way to go. Yeah.
So do you think, I mean, is there any market solutions that I think a company would want to take advantage of, or do you think that it's just, they if you don't force them, they're always going to kind of, do what they need to do to get emissions in the air?
Yeah, that's what we always say in the industrial air monitoring space. The company do the minimum possible to meet whatever the requirement they're applied to. So there's no goodwill there. Let's be honest. Like it's, they are profit driven fundamentally. So in order to change that, you have to change that, like regulations. Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, look, this has been enlightening. I mean, I think, like you said, not enough is paid attention to this, which is why I thought it was really important that we highlight, what you're doing. And I think, like you said, doing it at a micro level, being able to get as much data as possible to where what we're breathing and how we're breathing it, I think is going to be crucial. And I'm really excited for the work that you're going to be doing. So in closing, anything else you want to mention about what's going on with Clarity Movement today, what's upcoming that, our audience should know and get excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Clarity has done a lot of good work. We have actually deployed some of the largest air sensor network in the world, in Europe, in Oceania, and in US. And one of them, feel free to look up. It's called Breeze London. It's a great example of how the air quality sensor network is really empowering, in my opinion, the next generation of air monitoring and air management efforts in the cities. There are, nearly 500 of our sensors deployed all across the city of London, and we want to see that to be replicated more in other cities. So there's actually one major city that will have a network like this, powered by us very soon. Unfortunately, I can't really disclose yet. But if you want to learn more, feel free to visit our website, clarity.io, or follow us on social media by searching for Clarity Movement.
Great. Yeah, and for sure put the links in the description for the video. So I appreciate David taking time to speak with me. I'm really excited about what you're doing and excited to see what you have coming up. So again, thank you for taking the time to do this. This is the Decarbonization Disruptors Podcast, and we will see you next time.